Welcome back, everyone, to the next part of our explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into the architecture of decentralized trust. Now, in the first half of this Wealth Masterclass, we really dug into the sources' critique of the modern banking system. They laid out a pretty harsh reality, arguing that traditional fiat currency is basically a melting ice cube, a system structurally designed to slowly but surely drain your purchasing power over time. But, just understanding the problem is only half the battle. Today, we're looking at the proposed solution. We're going to dive into a completely different framework for wealth and security.
But right off the bat, we've got to address the absolute biggest mental hurdle here. It's the exact same skepticism that stops 99% of people from ever stepping into the world of decentralized currencies like Bitcoin. How on earth can you trust a system with no CEO? Seriously, think about it. If there's no central bank, no government oversight, no manager sitting in a corner office, what's stopping some brilliant hacker from just tweaking the numbers and stealing billions of dollars out of thin air? It's a completely valid question. We're so used to relying on big institutions to protect us. So how does trust even work when you just remove the institution entirely? Let's figure it out.
Well, the answer to that profound question is built into an incredibly secure digital architecture called the blockchain. Now, I know a lot of people hear the word blockchain and instantly think it's just some hyper-complex database for tech nerds, but in reality, it operates as the ultimate trust machine. It relies entirely on math instead of human morality. Over the next few minutes, we're going to unpack exactly why the source argues this structure isn't just highly secure, but actually mathematically impossible for any government, dictator, or hacker to shut down.
To really grasp how genius this is, we have to contrast it with the old financial matrix, the centralized bank vault. In the traditional world, the ledger, the master notebook that tracks who owns what, is kept completely hidden inside a private corporate database. If a bank alters a transaction or a government decides to freeze your funds, they literally just change the numbers on their end. You have zero visibility, and honestly, you're pretty much powerless. But the creator of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto, completely flipped that old structure upside down. Instead of a hidden database, imagine a giant decentralized global ledger. It's like a massive public notebook where every single transaction is written down with absolute precision. And most importantly, it is immutable, meaning once it's written, it can never, ever be changed.
So that begs the question, how do you maintain a public notebook without a central authority guarding it? The answer is nodes. Instead of keeping one master copy tucked away in some corporate vault, the system distributes exact, real-time copies of this digital notebook to millions of independent computers running all over the world. These computers are the nodes. They essentially replace the human managers, the bank tellers, and the executives. And because these millions of computers are constantly talking to each other, constantly comparing notes, the architecture ensures that absolutely no single person or organization can secretly alter the ledger.
Let's actually trace a transaction really quick to see how this works in practice. Step 1. When you send funds, your request doesn't go to a bank manager to wait for their stamp of approval. It's instantly broadcasted to that entire global network of nodes. Step 2. These computers immediately get to work solving highly complex mathematical puzzles just to verify that you actually own the funds you're trying to spend. They're checking the math, right? Not your credit score. Step 3. Consensus is reached. The network collectively agrees that the math checks out perfectly. And finally, Step 4. The transaction is permanently locked inside a digital block and chained to the previous block forever. It's history.
And this right here brilliantly illustrates why the system is so heavily secured. Let's say a single hacker or even a highly funded syndicate of hackers wanted to fake a transaction to steal some wealth. Their computing power represents just a tiny, insignificant sliver of the network. To actually rewrite the immutable history of this ledger, they couldn't just hack one server. They would have to overpower the consensus. That means they'd need to simultaneously hijack and control more than 51% of all the millions of computers across the entire planet, all at the exact same fraction of a second. The sheer amount of electricity and computing power required to pull that off makes it a literal physical and financial impossibility.
This crucial point is summed up absolutely perfectly in this quote from our source material. Because hacking the decentralized network is financially and mathematically impossible, the blockchain provides a level of security that no traditional bank can ever match. That's a pretty profound realization. However, this unmatched security introduces a massive shift in personal responsibility. The author makes a great point here. In the old financial matrix, you don't actually own your assets. Think about it. You basically just hold a claim check issued by a bank. If they go under, or if they just decide to restrict your access, your wealth essentially vanishes. You are entirely reliant on their permission.
Which leads us to what is easily the most empowering concept in this entire explainer: self-custody. In the decentralized universe, self-custody means you literally become your own personal central bank. You do this by holding the private keys to your digital estate. True ownership means taking your hard-earned assets completely out of the hands of institutions that, as the author argues, are prone to failure or censorship. You're no longer holding a little paper claim check, you are holding the vault itself.
So, how does this true ownership actually function mechanically? First off, your private key isn't just some standard password you made up. It's a highly advanced cryptographic string of data. This string is your absolute, undeniable mathematical proof of ownership over your specific slice of that global ledger. Next, you definitely don't just leave this key sitting on your laptop. You store it in an isolated offline hardware device, what we call cold storage. By taking it offline, you completely separate your assets from the vulnerable internet infrastructure because, well, hackers can't steal what isn't connected to the web.
This introduces the incredible concept of untouchable capital. The core philosophy here is that when you utilize self-custody and cold storage, you achieve something that has been virtually impossible for the average citizen throughout all of history. According to the source, this setup ensures that absolutely no corporate platform, no corrupt politician, and no international banking cartel can ever touch, freeze, or confiscate your capital without your explicit mathematical permission. In this framework, your wealth becomes truly sovereign. It's untouchable by anyone other than you.
And the scale of this financial liberation, it's honestly hard to overstate. Just think about the number 12 for a second. In this new architecture of trust, you don't need a fleet of armored trucks or shady offshore bank accounts to move your wealth around. You can literally carry $1 billion worth of value across international borders inside a secure little device smaller than a USB drive. And it gets even crazier. You can do it without any physical device at all, simply by memorizing a 12-word seed phrase in your head. Those 12 words act as the master backup to your private keys, meaning your wealth goes wherever your mind goes. Which brings us to our final provocative thought for today. Will you trust a bank's claim check or a 12-word seed phrase? We've explored the author's case against the old matrix, and we've unpacked the new architecture of decentralized trust, an immutable, mathematically verified, globally distributed network where you hold the keys. The entire landscape of financial security has fundamentally shifted, and the tools for absolute ownership are sitting right in front of you. So, which system will you choose to build your future on? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, stay curious, and I'll catch you in the next one.